First of all, thank you all for coming. My name is Kevin Hajos. I am the Superintendent of Public Works for Warren County. This is for the public information session on the Clendon Brook culvert replacement on Corinth Road. We're going to be very informal tonight since there's 4 of you here. At the end, you can all get up and look at the boards that they'll have up there and ask questions on the board, but I'm going to turn it over to the team shortly. This is Megan Holmes. She works with me as well at the county. She's one of my engineers, and she will be the lead project engineer on this project for the county. And then I will turn it over to CHA, who is our engineer consulting firm, and they're going to give us a nice little presentation here.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Good evening, everyone. We're going to probably do 10 minutes, maybe just a short PowerPoint presentation to show you some of the highlights of what the project is. Talk a little bit about its schedule and the process that's required because this project is has state aid involved with it. So there is a process that is required that we go through to make sure that the county gets all of their reimbursement for the project. I have Nick Bennett with me. Nick's going to talk after I do. I'm going to do some general discussion items. Nick's going to talk a little bit about the design for a few minutes. I also have Ryan Clark from CHA as well. Nick handles the bridge side of things. Ryan's handling the highway side of things. And also here is Jim Deloria. Jim is from RK Height and Associates. They handle the right-of-way acquisitions. There are some right-of-way acquisitions that will be required for the project in and around the culvert area, and we'll discuss those in a bit. So Jim's not going to do any formal discussion about the right-of-way process, but if you do happen to live near the culvert that we are replacing, go to the map afterwards, and if there's anything that you want to talk about with regards to those acquisitions, Jim can help out in that regard. There we go. And we are recording this, so for the county's website as well. So as I said, I'll do the welcome introductions that we just did, project overview and project development process. Nick will talk about the design considerations. We'll do questions and answers here. Those will be general questions. We'd like to keep them if it's a question that everybody would be interested in the answer to. We'd like to do them in this setting, but then we will break up and do an open house. That would be more of an informal thing at the side where if you have individual questions about your particular property that's more specific to you, then we will do that at that time. As the slide says here, tonight's meeting, we want to present the project to you and solicit your feedback. This is a pretty straightforward project. It's actually a culvert, not a lot of activity around it. There are some environmental features that we have to deal with. We are going to be doing a detour, so that's another aspect of the project that is of importance. But generally speaking, it's a culvert replacement, pretty straightforward of the many projects that we do. As I mentioned, the project is funded through the state through a Bridge New York program as a culvert project. So because of that designation, the county will receive 100% state funds back for the cost of this project, whether it be our services, engineering, right-of-way services, right-of-way, or construction, up to $1 million. And we feel that the project will be under that. So the county will be fully reimbursed for this project. As I said, the county is the sponsor, so they're in charge of putting the project together and hiring us, the consultants, and procuring the project through a contractor. The New York State DOT does provide oversight on the project since they are the funding source on the project. CHA Consulting, where I'm from, we're doing the design. And as I mentioned, RK Height, the right-of-way acquisitions. So this is just an overview map. Corinth Road, where it curves down to the south. That's where the project location is, the culvert being replaced over Clendon Brook. Just a shot of what we're dealing with. The culvert is carrying Clendon Brook on a rather large embankment. Place this, we will, as I said, need to close the road and do a detour, and we'll show you that in a moment. The project development process, regardless of the complexity of the project and so on, when we do get state funds in this case, and sometimes federal funds. In other cases, we do have a process we have to go through. There are 4 stages of that: scoping, preliminary engineering, detailed design, and construction. And I'll go through those real quick. We are complete. We finished scoping, and that's why we're here with you tonight to start the next phase. But the first phase was scoping. We did survey and mapping, environmental screenings out there. There are some wetlands that we have to deal with, some permitting that we'll have to do to mitigate the wetland impacts. We did traffic, operational, and accident analysis in the corridor area, and developed the preliminary alternatives that you'll see at the boards when you go up to those. Having done that, the next stage is preliminary engineering. Tonight's public informational meeting is one of the first steps of that process to get your input. After your input is collected, and we look at it and take all the comments and present those to the county, a preferred alternative is selected. And then we complete a design report. It's a document that just documents, if you will, all of the activities we took environmentally, what the potential cost of the project is, what we decided to build after we went through this process, and we obtain what's called design approval. The county and the state get together and say, yes, this is what's being built. We all agree. Let's move to the next phase. And the next phase is detailed design. In that phase is where we actually develop the detailed plans of the actual culvert replacement, the roadway that approaches the culvert, the guide rail, and so on, the drainage changes that will be made, all improvements that will help this roadway in the future. So we develop those plans. In that same phase, we do the right-of-way acquisitions that are necessary, and that's where R.K. Height and Jim Deloria do their work and work with the property owners and get the fair market value for the property that's needed, make those offers to the property owners, and work through that process. We also want to make sure we have utility agreements. Those are required. Any utilities that we do impact, whether they be private or public, due to the replacement of the culvert, we have to coordinate with them. And in this case, we've already done some of that coordination with some of the overhead utility poles. And there's a water line, a local water line that has to be temporarily moved and then put back in place where it is today. And then we advertise the project for a contractor, get bids in, look at those bids, analyze them, and then ultimately award the project for construction, which is the 4th phase. And during construction, that the county obviously is still involved. They hire an inspector who represents their interests and watches over the contractor as the project is built. These 4 phases, project scoping is complete. This preliminary engineering phase, which tonight is a part of, and our future studies will take us through the holiday season into the spring. And next spring to the fall of 23, be doing the detailed design and potentially start, but I'd rather be conservative and say construction would be spring of 24. If things go smoothly, it could be earlier, but because of the right-of-way acquisitions that are involved, I like to be more conservative and say it's going to be spring 24 at this point. Be updated, if that were to change in any way. I'll bring up Nick now, and Nick's going to talk about some of the design considerations of the culvert.
So, evening. So this is the project site as it stands now. On the left, you can see a view looking west on Corinth Road, headed towards West Mountain area in Corinth. On the photo on the right is the existing culvert, which you can tell is, nearing the end of its useful life, and we'd like to replace that. But this is a satellite view of the project limits. They're there in the black lines. You can see Clendon Brook, which flows south, so from the top of your page to the bottom. And we're going to be extending the culvert out a bit, making it longer than it is now to increase the layback of those slopes, because right now they're very steep, and we want to make it more stable for the future. We're also going to be making the culvert bigger. I'll show that in a minute, and that will meet all the state and federal requirements for hydraulic flow and environmental guidelines for aquatic passage, terrestrial animal passage, and yeah, all that other environmental stuff. So here's a plan view again. The green is kind of the limits of the project. You'll notice that in pink and red here, we have the property lines that will be affected either permanently or temporarily. I know it's hard to see this far. We have this blown up over here if you'd like to see it afterwards. And as Joe mentioned, we're working with all the property owners that are affected through the right-of-way process. I'll just mention, we're also going to be extending some guardrail out here. That's this black line here with the circles. So we'll bring that up to current spec and make sure that the roadway is well protected. This is a transverse view of the roadway, showing the embankment and the culvert that we are going to design to put back. Just a few key facts here. It's going to be about 74 feet long. The flow on this page is to the right. The culvert will be installed level, and in accordance with the environmental guidelines and requirements, it will have a natural stream bottom. So that will be natural material that's excavated, put to the side, and then put back inside the culvert as it's built to maintain a more natural stream setting. And obviously that will be pitched slightly to convey the water flow. Most of the elements of the culvert are going to be precast concrete. If you're familiar with that, it's actually designed and then built in a fabrication yard and inside, and they'll do all the pouring and the forming inside. So the quality control is very good. And they'll bring it out and put it together like Legos or an erector set. And that also speeds up the timeline of construction because you don't have to sit there and wait for all that concrete to set up before you can backfill and get the roadway reopened. Not much is changing on the top. People driving it, I don't think you'll really notice the difference other than the pavement and the guide rail will be new. And there'll be some drainage improvements, as Joe mentioned. Just shows the profile of the roadway. This is looking from the side now. We're pretty much taking the roadway out and putting it back just as it is right now. We're going to match and blend in at the end, so there's no bumps, no problems. And then you'll see an elevation view of the actual culvert. Right now, we're intending it to be 26 feet wide and about 10.5 feet high to accommodate all the requirements. Detour route, which is probably what you folks are mainly interested in, is going to go up to Luzerne Road and come down West Mountain Road. It's about 4.3 miles. We drove it several times. All the roads on there seem like they're in pretty good shape. And we anticipate that I went really conservative here with 4 to 5 months. Being as there's a detour and the contractor doesn't have to deal with traffic on the site, the road will be closed. It could go quicker than that if they plan properly and everything comes together. So that's basically it. Like Joe said, at this time, if you have any general questions, I think Joe's going to come back up, and we have a website and email for you if you have questions after the fact.
Yeah, so if we're going to have some questions here, obviously, and later on at the boards, but if after tonight you do have anything else that you might think of or that you do want to add, we're asking for. This is the email site, so we'll leave this slide up if you want to write it down if you can't see it from there. It's also going to be a recording of the presentation given tonight up and through these questions that we're going to do here on the Warren County's website. So those two sites are available after this, the emails and the county website, where project information will be stored. And we're going to leave this up, but we'll leave, as Nick said, we'll put it open to questions now, just general in nature, if you have any. Yes, please. That detour that you saw, that is the plan, yes. Yes, yes. For the video, we're going to repeat the question. The question about logging trucks having to use the detour, if that was going to be the case. And the answer is yes, that is our plan.
That corner, which now has a 4-way stop sign. When you come in, going north on West Mountain Road and make that turn at the cemetery, there's a big hole on that corner. Loggers are gonna hate it because in order for a passenger car to turn on Luzerne Road now, you have to almost go into the oncoming lane to make that turn. So somebody's got to fix that hole before you guys start this.
So the comment was about a hole on the turn on Luzerne Road for not only passenger cars, but more so for the larger trucks. So that's something we'll definitely be looking at, and that's the type of input that we're looking for tonight. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? The question is, how much longer is the detour than the direct route? And it's just over 4 miles. If you were at one end of the culvert and you had for some reason you wanted to be right at the other end on the roadway, that whole thing is 4.3. If that's for the main traffic. If there's local traffic, they can do other things.
Barrier to stop traffic from coming up to the culvert will be placed at the corner of West Mountain Road and Corinth Road.
Yeah, there'll be barricades in the road. There'll be the question was about what will be set up, to alert traffic that the road is going to be closed. There will be barricades and signage well in advance of the closure and in advance of the detour to say, don't go beyond this point, go on these detour routes. There will be local traffic allowed where there is a need beyond those barriers to get to local facilities and houses and so forth. That'll be allowed, but the majority of the traffic is going to be directed around the culvert. Right.
Will there be a traffic light like they did temporarily when they were fixing the one on Bay at the corner of West and Corinth Road?
The question was, will there be a traffic light during construction, right? At the corner of Corinth and West Mountain. With no plan for that. Okay.
And then the other barrier would be up at the corner of Corinth Road and Van.
Right. And barriers on both sides.
You would not.
Uh,
Well, there's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I was just gonna add on to that. So typically what a contractor would do is you see the plastic barricade that they put up, which will say local traffic only, road closed ahead. At the culvert itself, most likely the contractor will put concrete barrier across, so no one can go past that point, but they will have the signs ahead of it. And Van Dusen and Corinth is probably either the ideal or the logical place to put that sign as they're coming down through it, so that people will turn on it. If they know the locals, turn on the tankers.
There's 2 houses beyond Van Dusen.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so the houses beyond those initial barricades will be allowed to always, get to their driveways for sure.
As Nick said, I think too, is set a certain time frame, 4 to 5 months. The contractor has a site to themselves without any traffic involvement. They typically have to see the big move.
When does it start?
Right now, I think, as Joe had said, and I know you got.
Yeah, I'll repeat this. Yeah.
But it'll be the spring of, it could be the fall of 23, but most likely it'll be the spring of 24.
Yeah, the question was about the schedule was discussed and most likely start in spring of 2024. With the right of way that's involved, that's a process that takes some time. And that's why we're going to project out, be conservative and say spring of 24. If it goes quicker and we can get the approvals we need sooner, it's possible that it's next fall in 23, but more than likely, because you really like to get a full season in anyway, not start a project for a month and then have to close it down for the winter, more than likely it'd be waiting till the spring of 24.
And did you say you were gonna do stream side protection where that brook comes down through now? and there would be something done with the banks on both sides.
Yes, the question was about protecting the banks in the stream, post-construction. Yes, we have plans to stabilize, well, one, to flatten out some of the embankment, but then to stabilize it in the stream with measures such as larger stone and things like that, that is often used in construction of these culverts.
What's the width of the current culvert and the width of the new one is going to be wider to provide access for terrestrial animals and.
So the question was about the width of the existing culvert, and then the question, or the other question is, what is the proposed culvert going to be and why is it wider? Do you want to hit that one, Nick? Yeah, I don't know if you know the existing, but
Yeah.
you know the proposed and the reasons for it.
Yeah, so the existing is an 8x8 culvert, and it also has the stormwater comes from the road, also comes out inside the culvert. So with the environmental requirements, we had to make it much larger, which is 26 feet wide, because it has to be wider than the stream that is before and after it. And we're going to relocate those stormwater basins outside the culvert, so it's not so much of a maintenance issue for the county.
And on that, you're relocating the water that comes off the road surface, so it's salted water is not going into the stream that for consideration.
So the comment and question was about salted water going directly into the stream today, and then post-construction, what will occur? Absolutely right. The water today that comes out of that storm drain dumps right into the culvert, right into the stream, if you will. We're going to be outletting it on the sides of the roadway and doing some level of treatment before the water then reaches the stream itself. And that's a good practice, but it's also an environmental requirement that we do that. So the water will not dump directly into the stream. There will be some level of treatment before it does go into the stream, the stormwater from the road.
Classification of that stream.
Classification of the stream, excuse me, I do not know off the top of my head. Ryan, any chance you know? We do have that recorded. We have it in the design approval document. We do, when we do our permitting for the project, the classification of the stream is taken into consideration, whether it be a class A or class BT, trout streams, all that good stuff is considered and is part of our process. And it dictates what we have to do as far as keeping the stream clean. The permit that we're given states all of those requirements. And in some ways it's dependent on the stream class. So very good question. Other general questions? Great, thank you very much. We're going to close this part of it, the recording part of it. And as I mentioned, we have our highway, our bridge experts, the right-of-way experts. My boss just walked in, so you can talk to him too. Hi, Lee. But we have our boards on the side, and you'll get a better picture, I think, than some of the slides here that you're far away from. We have a plan here that you saw. We have a detour plan, and we have our sections that you can take a look at as well. That gives you the dimensions of the culverts. So thank you very much. Yes, one more. Yes. Don't know yet. The question was, where's the field office going to be? That's usually decided when the contractor is hired and the inspectors are hired, and then they work that out at that time. Don't know yet, but to be determined. Thank you very much.